a lot.
Excellent. Sounds great. Would you like me to run your slides, or Luisa's running your slides? Because I have them. So whatever works. Whatever works. I'll make you co-host.
Well, fine. If I don't see stuff up.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. We'll give it one more minute. I know we have, welcome everyone who's just joined us. I see that we have about 60 participants, which is excellent. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, September 8th, for this lunchtime workshop. We'll get started in maybe 30 seconds because I want to be prompt with it and respect your time. We had about 200 people registered for today's event, so I'm expecting maybe a few more. But as these things go, yeah, you have a certain percent, you know,
if you like,
a whole bunch of people sign up, and about 30%, I think, actually end up logging on. So thank you to all.
I won't leave here until about 5.
Here, this is going to be a really great,
Fitz. All right,
informational lunchtime workshop.
Hi, Liam. This is Anthony Gardner. I just wanted to make sure you knew I was on.
Oh, Anthony. Okay, you made it. Excellent.
Yeah,
I'm making you co-host. Excellent.
I apologize. I am still having problems with my video, though, so I'm going to keep working on that.
No worries. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Liam Lynch with NICOSH, New York Committee for Occupational Safety and Health. We are a nonprofit in the city. We work with unions and labor and worker organizations, along with safety and health professionals, to fight for safe and healthy jobs. NICOSH was there after 9/11 with the community and labor to fight for the rights of responders and survivors. And we are very honored to be co-hosting this event with Mount Sinai, a clinical center of excellence with the World Trade Center Health Program. Agata Benarska and Luisa Ares at Mount Sinai did the heavy lifting and put this event together. So thank you so much. It's, really, it's been a pleasure working with you both to make this happen. And it's always a pleasure and honor to work with Mount Sinai. And just to be honest, Agata and Luisa, I just have to say that you two are some of the most hardworking people I've had the fortune to be working with, especially during this pandemic. So thank you for making this as easy as a click of a button on my end. So for the program today, how this is going to work, we have 3 awesome presenters: Dr. Michael Crane from the World Trade Center Health Program, Clinical Center of Excellence at Mount Sinai, Stephanie Langsam and Anthony Gardner from the September 11th Victim Compensation Fund. And they're going to go over, updates in their respective programs, how the programs are operating during this pandemic. At NICOSH and Mount Sinai, we always try to host something annually around the anniversary to mark the passage of time from that fateful day and the days that followed, and provide important updates to the program, the programs that serve this 9/11 community, while also providing outreach to folks who may not even realize that these programs, yes, are still open. Yes, they are receiving new patients and new claims all these years later. So we're going to have the presenters present, and then we're going to take a few questions as time allows towards the end of the hour. So please put your questions in the Q&A or in the actually for this, it would be the chat box. We don't have a separate Q&A box. So it would be in the chat box. Put your questions there as presenters are speaking, and I will pull a few that we can address as time allows. Please do not put any identifying information in the chat, like your program ID numbers or social security number. And unfortunately, we can't answer very specific questions that are unique to individual cases. So I would encourage you all to reach out directly to your clinic or the hotlines of the program or myself after the event to address those individual concerns and questions. So we are definitely here to help, but we can't get to everything within this hour. So, afterwards, I would be happy to address that. I know that Mount Sinai would be happy, and so would the VCF, to address your individual concerns. So please keep questions more general in nature. We'll do our best to answer them. And again, if we run out of time, just follow up with myself or the hotlines of the program. So before we dive into the content today in the program, we'd like to have a moment of silence. This year marks the 19th anniversary of the attacks and the collapse of the World Trade Center. And, as we pause to remember and honor the nearly 3,000 lives lost that day, we also remember and honor the first responders who answered the call, risked their lives to support New Yorkers in a time of great need. And also the survivors, the area workers, residents, students who were there suffering from the same exposure and who remained here in the city despite the challenges, and they stayed and they rebuilt. Both responders and survivors make up the fabric of our city's resilience. And, to me, they showed us the power and strength that is possible after a tragedy of such immense magnitude. In the years following 9/11, this community has experienced significant illnesses related to that exposure, and the evolution of their symptoms has proven that it's extremely necessary to provide long-term medical care and compensation for these heroes. Many whom have since passed from 9/11 related health conditions, and we've lost more after the fact. Since that day, we've lost more, from those who passed away from 9/11 related conditions. And we remember them, we honor them, we acknowledge their sacrifice this year and always, and our deepest sympathies to the friends and family of loved ones who are no longer with us. So please join us in a moment of silence to reflect and respect and mourn the loss of the men and women whose lives were cut short. Thank you. And thank you to the responders and survivors on this call and others who tirelessly, have fought to ensure that these programs are a reality for this community. And it's an honor to be working with such great people. So now we move on to the rest of the program today, and our excellent presenters will be informing us of important updates from the World Trade Center Health Program and the VCF. And I'd like to just give a quick overview of the programs to ensure that we're all on the same page. So I have the slides up here. And as you know, back in 2011, Obama signed into law the James Zadroga 9/11 Health and Compensation Act, establishing two programs, the World Trade Center Health Program, which provides medical monitoring and treatment for responders and survivors. There are several clinics in the New York metro area, but there is also a national program that can treat responders and survivors in every state. And this program right now it covers over 100 different illnesses related to exposure, including a lot of physical conditions such as asthma, sleep apnea, all of those aerodigestive disorders, to many cancers, as well as mental health conditions such as PTSD. And the healthcare professionals in this program are specialized in this care, and they're also doing ongoing research that is going to try to ensure that this community is cared for, now into the future. So, the Zadroga Act also created the September 11th Victim Compensation Fund. It's a separate but related program, and the two work together. The fund provides financial compensation to responders and survivors for physical conditions. They have, slightly differing eligibility requirements. Again, they're separate. They require separate registration processes, but you have to have your conditions certified by the health program to file a claim with the VCF. But we'll kind of get more into the nitty gritty of that. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first speaker today, Dr. Michael Crane. He is a professor in the Department of Environmental Medicine and Public Health at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, and he's also the medical director of the Silikoff Centers for Occupational Health and the World Trade Center Health Program at Mount Sinai, and he is an expert on the physical and mental health consequences of large-scale disasters. He is a very strong, and I can personally attest to this, advocate of worker safety and health. So welcome, Dr. Crane.
Liam, thank you very much for that very, very kind introduction. Can you guys hear me at this point?
We can, and I think Louisa has your slides, so I will stop sharing so that we can pull those up. Otherwise, I can pull them up myself.
Okie doke. Here comes Louisa now, even as we speak.
Excellent, excellent.
Well, thank you for that introduction and for the always important moment of silence. We have so much to remember at this point, and I might add, still so much to learn. So let's just go to the next, our first slide, Luis, if we could. Just an overview. Let's take the next one. So we're just going to be kind of retreading over some of what Liam recalled a bit. So the Zadroga Act, as you recall, 2000. It was 75 years, ending in 2090. It is overseen by NIOSH, who have been, I have to say, through this entire terrible season of pandemic, they have been really totally supportive and heroic in their own right. These are folks, many of them are commissioned officers of the U.S. Public Health Service, one of the oldest branches of service to our country, and they can be talking to us on the phone at morning, be deployed over to combat the Ebola virus or to check out the COVID on a cruise ship. They're amazing people, and their dedication and professionalism has really been so enormously helpful to us in keeping the program going through the difficult time of the pandemic. So, as you know, it's the idea is to provide high-quality care to the workers and volunteers and to the survivors and the folks who lived and worked and went to school in the area. Could you go next one, Louisa? And the program structure is probably known to all. NIOSH is our oversight agency. There's 3 data centers that collect all the information from the exams. The clinical centers of excellence include the 5 in New York City and the FDNY and the survivor clinics. And for out-of-state care out of the metropolitan area, there's the nationwide provider network. Next slide, please. And the heart of the program, of course, is the annual medical monitoring exam. Its purpose is to just do exactly what it says, to monitor the health of responders and gather data to target conditions potentially related to their 9/11 exposure. It's quite comprehensive, and it's offered annually. And all the information from the exam goes to the data center, and then is shared with other centers so we can get sort of a big picture about what's happening to the health of our responders. And everything you hear me say today will have been reported through those data centers. Next slide. We, of course, provide treatment, medical and mental health treatment. It's for the World Trade Center related conditions. As Liam said, the program is really built around conditions related to World Trade Center exposure, such as asthma and post-traumatic stress disorder, many of which are actually named in the bill itself. And it includes prescriptions and testing and specialty care. When appropriate and there's appropriate exposure, The condition is related to the World Trade Center exposure, and the term of art, as Liam mentioned, is called certified. So if you have a certified World Trade Center condition under the bill, medical care for that treatment of that condition is free. And certified really says that a professional staff and NIOSH found a relationship between the condition that the person has and the World Trade Center exposure. Next slide. Yes, and the services include cancer screenings, which are quite important: lung, colon, breast. I left off cancer of the cervix here for our female patients, but it's quite an important part. The basis for the cancer screenings is the recommendations of the U.S. It's actually preventive, not preventative, task force guidelines, and we operate under NIOSH direction, consistent with those existing and evolving guidelines. And the next slide. So we just like everybody else trying to move through this pandemic, we really had to really kind of do some learning as we go. As you know, they could call in.
Dr. Crane, we're getting a little, you're breaking up a little bit. Maybe I've had some success. If you turn off your video, you might get better audio. As much as I want to see your handsome face, maybe that'll help with the audio. Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. Can you hear better now? Is that?
Oh my goodness, yes, definitely. Beautiful.
Okay, so the video is off, and you people are being spared the sight of my wrinkly old whatever it is I have on me, the front of my head. So we're talking about the response to COVID, and in March, when the outbreak began to spread, we had to close down. We could no longer provide services to folks in person, and we had to basically, all of us, all the clinics, reinvent the program via telehealth, and it's turned out to be a remarkably useful tool. We are petitioning to allow NIOSH to keep it going. It's terrific for people who are infirm or impaired in any way, because they can get services at home, including prescriptions. They can have their interviews with their physicians. Of course, if they have to come to the clinic, we can arrange that. But it's a very, very excellent tool indeed. We've now also gone back, and I guess we're running about 50-50 now in person. It's remarkable how the program has adapted to this pandemic. And again, I come back to the fact that this is not only due to the energy of our wonderful staff, but also the really amazing professionalism and dedication of our friends at NIOSH and at the U.S. Public Health Service. Really a remarkable job. The next slide, please. This is a pitch now. This is advertising. This is something just to remind you that it's very, very important. It is probably more important than any time in your lives to get a flu shot this year. The importance of that in this pandemic cannot be overstated. Just in terms of the individual patient, we really don't know what it would look like if someone got both flu and COVID. We really have no idea. The other important thing about flu is that flu shots are demonstrated to keep people out of the hospital, and especially out of the ICU. And if, God forbid, we have another spike, that is something that would be incredibly important to keep people out of the hospital. And flu shots are proven to do that. So please take the time and get a flu shot this year. Next slide. And then just a little bit of data that it will be familiar, just that we'll go through quickly. The next slide, please, Lisa. These are just the numbers for the enrollment. If you look under total enrollment and you add general responders, which is the program we're in, plus FDNY responders, you have about 80,000 people. That's the responder population. It's thought that there are about 90,000 responders all told at World Trade. So we're roughly around 90% of the known responders in the population. And that is terrific. And we really need to keep that going. The survivors program of the community is increasing in size, and that also is an excellent thing. The next slide. And then some of the certification data that Liam mentioned. These are certified conditions, so aerodigestive conditions, so like asthma and rhinitis and sinusitis and GERD, and then there's cancer and mental health conditions and musculoskeletal. You can see that the aerodigestive conditions like asthma are the most numerous. Cancer is now afflicts 12,000 responders. But I point out that among the most numerous of those, in fact, several thousand of those are curable skin cancers, non-melanoma, that can actually be cured. So yes, it's a large number, but it's not quite as bad as this one here makes you out. So roughly 1 in 8 or 1 to 7 of our responders have a significant cancer that requires treatment. Could I just go to the next slide and we'll see what that given more? Oh, I'm sorry about this. This is just a distillation of all the conditions that are certified, and you can see that the leading condition is rhinosinusitis, and then there's GERD, and then so on down the list. About 8,000 people, 12,000 people have asthma. PTSD is the most common World Trade Center related mental health condition with about 8,000 responders. Next slide. I just want to make another pitch for the monitoring exam. It is the heart of the World Trade Center program. Every time someone comes and shares their data, we become much better equipped to predict and diagnose and treat health concerns that are experienced by 9/11 responders across the country. And now, as it's turning out, other workers as well, because the information is quite important. I was actually contacted by a news agency following the Beirut blast, the explosion of the ship in the harbor, which caused fire and explosions and scattered dust all over the city. And I was at least able to share some information about how we had coped with that at a prior time. So it is important, and all the data is important. We have the next slide now. And now we just have some resources and references which you can use as needed. I do want to take one moment, if I can, just mention something that we're going to be sharing with the group, and that is a study called the New York Area Workers Cohort. It's a funded by NIOSH. It is supposed to be the control group for World Trade Center responders. So if you wanted to help a World Trade Center responder, volunteering to participate in this study would be really excellent. But the other thing about this is it will help all kinds of workers who have all kinds of exposures. Just one little point about how these studies go. As you know, we take our World Trade Center responders after the fact, and we compare, say, their rates of cancer or the rates of lung disease to the overall general population in New York State or to the United States. The trouble with doing that, though, is the general population is not all healthy workers. So the general population have higher rates of illness than the typical healthy worker. So you're really handicapping the study when it's trying to find if a certain group of workers has a higher rate of illness, when you're comparing that group to a group that has a higher rate already because of the way it's structured. So what this is an effort to compare healthy worker to healthy worker and really help us get the truth about work-related exposure. I think it's a major effort. I think it's tremendously important, and I'm going to be talking about it a lot and urging people to sign up. So, just fair warning: if you don't want to sign up, stay away from me. Okay, that's all. So I think that's my last slide. What else we got, Liz? Oh, a little bit terrible, and yeah, it's just up to 6 million cases now, and now we're at 189,000 people dead in the United States. Just an awful experience, and we really have to stay on our toes because there's a good reason, there's a good chance anyway, that we may have another spike here, despite our excellent efforts in this tri-state area. So I think I'll probably stop there. I've gone over my time already, I think. And
awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Crane. That was excellent.
Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you. Sorry to interrupt. You're breaking up a little bit there. Thank you so much. And if you could hang on tight to the end of the program to see if anyone has questions for you or for the program, that would be wonderful. But thank you so much for your presentation there.
Sure will.
Awesome. So next up, we have representatives from the Victim Compensation Fund. We have Stephanie Langsam and Anthony Gardner. Stephanie worked on the original VCF back in 2002 until it closed in 2004. She led the teams responsible for the operations of the helpline, claimant assistant, walk-in sites, and appeal process. And she has witnessed firsthand the vital role of the fund that it has and had at the time the lives of people impacted by the tragic events of that day. In 2016, she became the VCF Deputy Special Master. So she is joined today by Anthony Gardner. He is the Director of Communications and External Affairs at the VCF. And in this position, Anthony focuses on expanding the VCF's outreach efforts, including a strategy to build broader awareness and understanding of the VCF, and coordinating with the health program and other advocacy groups, hopefully like NICOSH today. So we are so happy to have Anthony and Stephanie join us. So welcome.
All right, thanks, Liam. And can you just confirm you can see the slides?
Perfect.
All right, then we'll go ahead and get started. So good afternoon, everyone. Anthony and I really appreciate the opportunity to participate today and want to thank our colleagues at Mount Sinai and NICOSH for putting this important forum together. We have all been challenged this year, and our thoughts have been with those of you in New York who have gone through a particularly difficult struggle. We know pulling off an event of this type is not easy, but we are really glad that you were able to do it. Thank you also to Dr. Crane and all the doctors and all the staff at the health program clinics for their dedication to continuing to provide treatment and monitoring during COVID, putting their patients first as always. Before we jump into our agenda, I want to let you know that despite COVID-19, the VCF has managed to maintain full operations, and we are continuing to review claims, issue eligibility decisions, and awards. Our staff was able to quickly put in place and adopt to almost fully remote work. And as a result, we really only have 2 changes to our operations as a result of COVID. The first is that it is taking us a little bit longer to process incoming mail. So where possible, upload documents to the online system instead of mailing them. And the second is we are no longer printing and mailing hard copy letters. We do still upload every letter to your claim in the online system. So if you have already started the process with us and you don't have online access to your claim, we encourage you to call our helpline to get that access so you can see the letter once it's uploaded. So with that, here is what Anthony and I are going to walk through today. I'll start with a brief overview of the VCF, and then discuss what is required in order to be eligible. Then I'll explain at a very high level how we calculate awards, and then Anthony will explain what we call our 3 basic steps, and then he'll talk about registration and claim filing deadlines and processing a claim. I'll then wrap it up with our top 5 takeaways and point you to some helpful resources. So with that, we'll jump into it. What exactly is the VCF? So we provide compensation for losses suffered by individuals who were physically injured or relatives of those who were killed as a result of the terrorist attacks of September 11th or during the debris removal and cleanup efforts. When we first reopened in 2011, we were supposed to be open for a limited amount of time, and we had limited funding. Many of you may have heard the announcement last year that we were reducing awards because of the funding shortfall. And all of that changed in July 2019, just over a year ago, when the president signed the Never Forget the Heroes, James Zadroga, Ray Pfeiffer, and Luis Alvarez Permanent Authorization of the September 11th Victim Compensation Fund Act, what we call the VCF Permanent Authorization Act. We are now open to take claims until October 1st of 2090, and we have as much funding as needed to pay all eligible claims filed by that date. The VCF is not just for first responders. Other potential claimants include people who worked or volunteered in construction, cleanup, debris removal, and people who lived or worked or went to school in the affected areas. As of August 31st of this year, we have received over 56,000 claims, and we have found over 33,000 claimants eligible for compensation. We've communicated awards to almost 32,000 of those individuals, and the total amount awarded to date is just over $7.1 billion. We do publish our statistics every month on our website, including additional details, breakdowns of personal injury versus deceased claims, survivor versus responder claims, and you can find all of that under the program news section on our website. So who is eligible for the VCF? To be eligible for compensation from the VCF, you must meet 3 requirements that apply to everyone. Now, there are some additional requirements depending on your individual circumstances, but for today, I'm going to focus on the requirements that apply to everyone. First, you must be certified for treatment by the World Trade Center Health Program for a 9/11 related physical condition. As Dr. Crane mentioned, that term certified means that your condition has been found eligible for treatment by the health program. That's what we're looking for, is that certification. We follow the health program. If a condition is on their list and they certify you for the condition, we will accept it as eligible for compensation. We work very closely with the health program to exchange information regarding conditions for which you are certified, so you do not need to submit proof of certification or medical records just to show that you have been certified. The second eligibility requirement is that you have to show you were present at a 9/11 crash site or in what we call the New York City exposure zone at any time beginning on September 11th, 2001 through May 30th, 2002, when the official cleanup effort ended. At the VCF, we call this presence at the site, or presence, and I'll talk about it in a bit more detail in a moment. The third requirement that applies to everyone is you must register with the VCF by your applicable registration deadline. And Anthony's going to talk about this in more detail later in the presentation. So let's talk about presence, because we know this is a topic that raises a lot of questions. I mentioned the New York City exposure zone. This is a map of our New York City exposure zone. In order to be eligible for compensation, we need some type of proof that you were present in this geographic area in Manhattan or along the routes of debris removal at any point between September 11th and May 30th, 2002. I'm going to see if I can annotate this, so bear with me as I want to highlight a few things. So the zone that we use to establish presence, meaning you were there, runs south of Canal Street. So south of Canal Street, this is handy dandy tool, river to river, and from the Hudson River to the intersection of Canal Street over to the intersection with East Broadway and then north on East Broadway to Clinton Street, and then across to the East River. We also include the routes of debris removal, so where the trucks were hauling debris, the barges that were used to haul debris, and the Fresh Kills landfill in Staten Island. Okay, now let me see if I can clear that. Okay, so this is a little different than the New York City disaster area that is used by the health program when they are evaluating your exposure. Just get that out of the way. Okay. And unlike the health program, we have no minimum time requirement for presence. All you need to prove is that you were there at some point during the relevant dates. So how do you show or prove where you were 19 years ago? How do you prove to us that you were there? We know this can be challenging. Let me see if it's going to work. There we go. But it is a key requirement to be eligible for compensation. We have extensive information on our website about the various documents that you can use to prove you were there. And one of the ways we've tried to ease the burden on you is by establishing agreements with certain entities to provide presence information on your behalf. So for example, we have agreements with organizations such as the FDNY, the New York City Department of Sanitation, and many others. If you participated or participate in the World Trade Center Health Registry, we can accept the Wave 1 survey to support presence. Another example is if you filed a workers' comp claim, we can access your workers' comp file to see what information may support presence for our purposes. A complete list of all the various entities with whom we have relationships and all the various documents you may use to prove you were there is on our website in our policies and procedures. And one of Anthony's main responsibilities since joining the VCF earlier this year is to work with additional organizations to establish these relationships, so we expect to continue to expand the list in the future. We will take a broad range of documents dated from that time, employer letters, injury reports, medical records. Perhaps it's a lease or a mortgage document or your tax returns from that time period, school transcripts. And in the end, what we do is evaluate your claim individually based on your circumstances. So when you're thinking about which documents to submit, consider what it is we need. We need some type of independent documentation that shows where you were at the time, meaning a specific address or cross streets, and when you were there, meaning the specific day or days or even time frame. And as I said, we'll accept a wide range of documents, and we really want you to understand that anything that you might have to show you were there, even if it isn't on the published list that's on our website, we encourage you to submit it so we can review and see if it meets our needs. I'm also really happy to let you know that in the next week or two, we will be launching a new presence page on our website that will have details about the documents you can use based on your individual circumstances. We're working hard to get this page up as soon as possible and believe that it will really be helpful in identifying the different documents that may work for you. Just a few more comments about presence. Again, because it's so important, please be sure any documents you submit are as detailed as possible. Specific dates, locations, your activities at the time. We know it can be difficult to find proof that you were there for a variety of reasons. The passage of time, 19 years, people changing jobs, moving away, losing touch with former colleagues. Maybe you worked for a company or a business that no longer exists, or you were there as a volunteer and you don't know anyone who might be able to vouch for you. If you are unable to get documentation to support your presence, and your claim is denied because of insufficient proof of presence, your letter will include an appeal form and instructions to appeal that denial, and we encourage you, please appeal. A denial does not mean we do not believe you were there. It simply means we don't have the documents we need in order to confirm it. If you have tried every way possible to find documents that prove your presence, or people who were with you at the time and can attest to it on your behalf, and you simply cannot find what we need, the denial is a door opening, not closing. It's an opportunity to come talk with us about your presence. It's another way to provide information in support of your claim. And if you appeal, we'll schedule a hearing. It's a non-adversarial process. You come in, you tell your story and your circumstances, and it may be just what we need in order to confirm your presence. My last comment on this topic is a question we have been hearing more and more, which is, when should you submit your presence documents? You are not required to submit your documents until you file your complete claim form. But once you have an online account in our system and you've registered with the VCF, and again, Anthony will talk about the difference between registration and filing a claim in a minute. But once you've registered and you have an online account, you have the option to upload presence documentation to your claim to store it for future use. Now, we won't review these documents until you file your claim. And you certainly you're not required to do this, and you don't need to do this if we have an agreement in place with your employer or your union or another entity. But this is an option that is available to you if you are worried about getting the documents now and then holding on to them until you file a claim in the future. You can upload them to the system and store them. So we've talked about eligibility, and before speaking for a moment about how we calculate awards, I do want to highlight some key differences between the health program and the VCF. And here's why. We are two separate programs, although we work well together, we adore each other, we have a great relationship, but enrollment or registration in one does not register or enroll you in the other. So you may be certified for treatment by the health program, but not eligible for compensation by the VCF for a few reasons. And that's because the criteria for our two programs overlaps to some extent, but not entirely. So first, in terms of the illnesses covered, by law, we are only allowed to compensate for physical conditions. And as Dr. Crane already mentioned, the health program certifies and treats both physical and psychological conditions. Second, as I explained a few minutes ago, our geographic zones are different. For VCF, presence at the site, the map that I showed a few minutes ago is our New York City exposure zone. It's Manhattan, it's the routes of debris removal, the barges, the fresh kills, landfill, Manhattan south of Canal. For exposure, so when the health program is looking at your exposure for purposes of determining whether or not your condition is related to 9/11, they have what they call their New York City disaster area. And that is south of Houston Street and into parts of Brooklyn. Third, our time frames are different. For presence for the VCF, we're looking for you to be there between September 11th and May 30th, 2002. When the health program is assessing your exposure, their time frame goes through July 31st, 2002. And last is the length of time you had to be there. We have no minimum time frame. You may have been there for a few hours, you may have been there for a day, you may have been there the entire time frame. All we need to know is that you were there at some point during the relevant time frame. The health program, on the other hand, does have minimum time frames for exposure in order to tie your condition to that exposure. And then last, one important note, we do not distinguish in any way between responders and survivors. There's absolutely no difference in the application process, the eligibility requirements, or the calculation of the award. So I have one last topic before turning this over to Anthony, and that is the formula we use to calculate awards. We compensate for two types of loss. The first is what we call non-economic loss. So this is what is commonly referred to as a pain and suffering award. These awards vary based on the severity of your condition and the impact of the condition on your daily activities. It is not tied to the number of certified conditions you may have. It is based on the severity and the impact overall. Non-economic loss awards range from $10,000 to $340,000. There are certain limits to these awards as set by the law that governs the VCF. And all claimants who are found eligible, who meet our basic eligibility criteria, qualify for a non-economic loss award. The next type of compensation is economic loss. So this is the value of your wages or your other employment benefits that you lost as a result of your eligible condition. In order to receive an economic loss award, you must have a disability that is due at least in part to your eligible 9/11 related physical condition. When calculating awards, we are required to subtract what the statute calls collateral offsets. These are payments you've received specifically because of your eligible physical condition. So for example, Social Security disability payments, workers' compensation payments, or if you happen to have been party to a 9/11 related lawsuit and you received a settlement, we are required to subtract the amount of your settlement. So it's important to know that all awards are individually calculated based on your unique circumstances. And the overall formula looks like this: non-economic loss plus any economic loss minus those offsets equals the total award. There is no cap to the total award an individual may receive. There are only caps to certain inputs to the award. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Anthony to talk about registration and filing a claim. If Anthony is there, he was having some issues.
Let's see, is Anthony there? Anthony was there. Yes, it seems like Anthony, I can see him. And we can see you, Anthony, no worries. You're connecting.
He was having some internet issues, very badly timed internet issues, and was...
I know how that is.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Anthony.
Yes.
I called in, and then for whatever reason you couldn't hear me, even though I was unmuted. So, but here I am. You could see me and you could hear me. Thankfully.
You've made it perfectly. Welcome.
Thank you for your patience. Thank you. So as Stephanie mentioned, I'm going to quickly walk you through the various steps involved in registration and give you some insights into registration versus claim filing, deadlines. And so to start, there are 3 basic steps to register and file your claim with the VCF. And the first is to register with the VCF. All the information you need on registration can be found on our website, including detailed instructions and helpful guides. So I really encourage you to go to vcf.gov and find those resources there. The next step in the process is to get certified by the health program for a physical health condition. That is a critical step in the process. And the final step is to file your claim by October 1st, 2090. And we're going to talk a little bit more about those deadlines. So first, to kind of walk through registration, what do we mean by registration at the VCF? For starters, you could register online on our website, vcf.gov, or by calling our helpline. We have people available to help you. We have Spanish-speaking representatives. We have interpreters and translators available as well upon request. So in terms of registration, some background. Registering with the VCF waives no legal rights. It does not obligate you to file a claim. But what it does is it preserves your right to file a claim in the future. You do not need to be sick to file a claim or to register. I'm sorry, you do not need to be sick to register with us. And you only, for registration, need to provide basic information. your name, address, phone number, date of birth, social security number, or other ID. Registration is not the same as filing a claim, and the registration deadline is not the same for everyone. It varies depending on individual circumstances, and I'm going to get into that detail in just a few minutes. So next, some background on filing a claim. For starters, you don't need an attorney to file a claim on your behalf. Once certified by the World Trade Center Health Program for a physical health condition, you would then complete and submit various documents that are required. These include your claim form, the supporting documentation like the Exhibit A, signature page, and proof of presence documentation Stephanie had mentioned earlier during her remarks. We have a lot of very helpful resources on the website, including document checklists as well. And we have, as Stephanie mentioned, a forthcoming page that will be dedicated to all things presence to answer all of your questions and help you secure the necessary documentation. There are 2 deadlines in the VCF claim filing process. The first deadline is to file the claim, your claim, and that's the same for everyone. And that date is October 1st, 2019. And this was a deadline that was set following the passage of the Vcf Permanent Authorization Bill in 2019. So next slide, please. Now, there has been, and you may be aware, there's been some misinformation that's been reported recently in the press concerning VCF deadlines. So some context of what do we mean by the July 29th, 2021 registration deadline? Now, this deadline was set 2 years from the date of the enactment of the Permanent Authorization Act, and it essentially gives claimants who missed their prior deadlines an opportunity to register. As I mentioned earlier, there's the two deadlines. One is the claim filing deadline, which is the same for everybody, but there's also the registration deadlines, which vary depending on individual circumstances. Registration is not the same as filing a claim, and the deadline is not the same for everyone. So you are only required to register by July 29th, 2021 with the VCF if you've been certified by the health program for a 9/11 physical health condition before July 29th, 2019. Now, if you have not been certified by the health program for a health condition, or if any condition is certified was certified after July 29, 2019, you may register by this July 2021 date, but you're not required to do so. You are required to register within 2 years of the latest date of which the health program certifies you for a physical health condition. Now, this July 2021 deadline also applies if you're registering to file a claim for an individual who died before July 29, 2019, and the death is believed to be caused by a 9/11 related physical health condition. Next slide, please. Or next point here. Okay. So again, all of this information about registration deadlines is available on our website. And I just mentioned this point about, in the future, if you're certified for a 9/11 physical health condition, you will have 2 years from the latest date on which you received that certification to register with the VCF. Also, if you're registering on behalf of an individual who died after July 29th, 2019, as a result of a 9/11 related eligible condition, you have 2 years from the date of the death to register. And again, all of this information is on our website, all of these claim filing deadlines. Now, we also wanted to give you a sense of what's involved in processing a VCF claim. Now, claims are reviewed in priority order, and they're reviewed from the date the claim form is submitted. Now, we have a very detailed timeline on our website, and it's updated on a monthly basis to show you where we are in the claim filing process. Now, for example, for claims submitted in December of 2019 to January 2019, those claimants are currently receiving award decisions. Now, claims submitted in January 2019 are now in substantive review. Claims submitted in February 2019 will come under substantive review soon. And claims submitted in between March and August 2019 are now in preliminary review, which is the first stage or step rather in our process. Now, you will have the ability to appeal within 30 days of the determination if the claim is denied or you believe that the award was calculated in error. Now, our appeal hearings are informal and non-adversarial. They're held by phone and video conference. Currently, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, typically prior to the pandemic, they were held in person. You may also amend your personal injury claim at any point before October 1st, 2090 to add any new condition, claim a new loss, and or submit additional information that may be relevant to your claim. And one final note here that any certification of a new condition does not automatically translate into a higher award. So that's just an important point to remember and to keep in mind. So with that, I'm going to turn back to Stephanie to provide an overview of some of our top takeaways. And thank you again for this opportunity.
So I know we're inching close to the end of the hour. I want to just focus on our top 5 takeaways. Everyone who is eligible qualifies for non-economic loss, less any offsets. You just need to prove you're eligible and nothing more is needed to receive a non-economic loss award. The second one is register now, online or by phone. There's no reason not to. If you're not sure if you're already registered or not, call our helpline. They can easily tell you. Call the helpline if you don't have online access to your claim. This is so you can check the status of your claim, view any correspondence from us since we are not printing and mailing letters right now. You can upload documents. Our helpline can help you set up your online account. They can help you file your claim form. They're a great resource and are ready and willing to help. You don't need an attorney to file a claim. It's your decision. If you decide not to work with an attorney, our helpline will support you every step of the way. And the last one is to get certified by the health program before you file your claim form. So register now, step 1. Step 2, get certified. And step 3, file your claim form. Our final slide has some resources on it. I want to point out, please, please, please be sure you are on the official vcf.gov.gov website. There are a number of websites out there that try to look like us. Some of them have forms you can fill out that may look a little bit like our registration questions. Just make sure you're going to the .gov website. We have all sorts of general information, how-to guides, policies and procedures, how to file a claim, and so much more. The information is available in English, Spanish, Polish, and Mandarin. And of course, our helpline is here to help you. As Anthony mentioned, we have Spanish-speaking representatives on our helpline team. And then we have an agreement with a company that can provide an interpreter in near real time for any language spoken around the world. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Liam. Thank you again for giving us this opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie and Anthony. That was wonderful, and you packed a lot of great information in a very short amount of time. So thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen once again. Excellent. Okay. So I know it's at 1:30 right now, but I want to do a couple of things. I want to put up some contact information that's going to be important for everyone to follow up since we didn't have too much time to do questions. And I'm going to be talking to my co-host today, and I think we're going to follow up with some information to some of the general questions that we had. So anyone who registered for the event, you should see a follow-up email from us about some further contact information. But real quick, while I have you guys, the one question that I feel like I can pull out and that can be an easy answer, or maybe it's complicated, is do photographs count as documenting the presence?
So photographs may help. It depends. And I don't mean that to sound, non-committal. Here's the thing with photographs. If it is a photograph, let's say, of you at ground zero, we've seen some where, the individual with some of their colleagues, and they're all in their gear, right? The hard hat, the mask. It's hard for us to know that that is actually you, because not only do we not know what you look like, but we don't know that you are the person in the photo. Oftentimes the photos are a little bit grainy and hard to tell. Now, with that said, we have had some instances where perhaps there was a newspaper article that identified the names of the people in the photo. And if we have that along with some other documented proof, that may be enough for us to be able to support presence. So photos alone generally are not ideal, again, because we don't know that it's you unless there's some kind of third-party independent acknowledgement that you are in the photo. If you have questions about whether what you have will work for us, I encourage you to call our helpline, because again, every situation is unique and individual, and I wouldn't want to make a blanket statement, but I can say that photos are one of those nuanced ways that really come down to the photo, the clarity, the circumstances, the sort of corroborating information.
Excellent. Thank you, Stephanie. So it's 1:32, and I just want to say, I got a couple of questions, privately to me while we were doing this, and I just want to say transit workers are definitely considered, responders if they were working down there at that time and in that exposure area. So transit workers are, responders and eligible for the program. And I just want to say, if you all are confused about the next steps, there's a lot that can be done, but shoot me an email, and I will be happy to follow up. Call the helpline of VCF, the World Trade Center Health Program. In step one, if is to apply to the World Trade Center Health Program and to register for the VCF, and I can do some hands-on assistance with that for you all or for your union members out there. So thank you so much for joining us today and taking your lunchtime with us. Thank you to Stephanie and Anthony at the VCF, and for Dr. Crane at the World Trade Center Health Program at Mount Sinai. We really appreciate this opportunity, and hopefully we'll have more to come. But thank you so much, and we'll be following up with you all on more information. I know there's some questions that we didn't answer, and we will definitely be getting to them. So thank you so much, and hopefully we'll see you in person sometime soon. Stay safe and healthy, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.